Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my guest is Ruth Biza, and we're going to be talking about her passion. Let's just say we titled the podcast, This Is Your Era.
Yeah.
So welcome, Ruth, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, CJ. This is exciting.
We'll get to This Is Your Era in just a second. Before we do, though, I love your statement on the form that we met it on. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, I'm passionate about building businesses for impact and want to inspire others to get out of their comfort zones and step into their power. Would you please explain to those listening what you mean by that?
Yes. So for me, really, the meaning behind that is just that combination of success and fulfillment. For a while, a lot of people, which I'm sure many people can relate, you're chasing success. You want that drive. You want that freedom, in essence, that having success brings along. But then there's just that extra piece of fulfillment that's just missing out of it. And for me, I get a lot of fulfillment when I'm able to just make people's lives better. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that I found was that through business, I could do that. Mm-hmm. So, the business is kind of like the vehicle, right? That enables me then to feel fulfilled because the success you get, or let's say the money you get out of it, I'm using that then to impact other people's lives. So that allowed me to just pivot that mindset and be like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to start focusing on building businesses that are not only successful, but there's an impact to it. Mm-hmm. And then hope that will inspire other people. Because at the end of it all, your legacy is what matters. When you're long gone, right? What are people going to remember you for? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be that, you made them $1 million and you took care of the entire family, or it was you made that money, but then you were also able to use that to impact and influence lives, and those lives are then going to go on and impact other people.
Exactly. I kind of do the same thing with my books. A portion of the proceeds actually go to different charities. Mm-hmm. I pick a charity that represents either that book or that series, and a portion of the proceeds actually donate it to it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same idea. Can you explain to people what This Is Your Era is?
So This Is My Era is basically, if you look at it, the first TIME is time. Oh, right, but we call it, so it's This Is My Era, where this is your moment. Mm-hmm. This is, your now. You don't have to wait until you make it in life, until you start, doing something impactful, where this is your time, this is your era, wherever you are in your life, or wherever you are, what stage you're in, use that platform. If you're in middle school, hey, pick up trash in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter. That's an impact, right? So you want to use that time that you have. This is your time. This is your moment. This is your era.
Love it. Can you explain a little bit about your backstory? Because on The Journey is Real, we like to know what brought you to that point.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Where do I begin? Well, let's go as far back. So I was originally born in Ghana in West Africa, and my family was like a middle class, it wasn't anything. But we weren't, starving or anything. And my upbringing for me, my mom has always, and now we look back and laugh now, but we're like, she was the unofficial foster parent in the neighborhood. She basically just took anybody in, invited people over. I've had so many moments where I had to sleep on the floor in the living room, mm-hmm. so somebody could have my room or have my bed. We've had family members come through the door, friends, neighbors, people that we don't even know come through, and it's just being able to watch how she was just so selfless about the things that she did. And I guess tradition too plays a role in it, because when she would cook, she always cooked extra. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why? There's just a few of us here.
She was a really good role model, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Role modeling love without having to spend thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
They had a bed or somewhere to sleep and somewhere to eat.
Exactly, absolutely. And you know, she always did the whole cook extra because she's like, you know what, somebody will always come. And crazy thing is somebody always showed up. It was like
It
they
makes
knew,
meals
and
interesting, I'm sure.
yeah, they're like, I'm like, can they smell that the food is ready? Or do they know that food was ready? Because there are always, you know, people there or somebody there to eat the extras whenever food was ready. But for me, there were really two moments in my life growing up that you know, kind of solidify this passion really about impact and business.
Mhm.
And the first was, there's seven of us. So my mom has seven kids. And
Goodness.
I'm lucky number seven.
Oh wow, so baby. I'm
And
a four, so
yeah, so I'm lucky number seven. And with a lot of the African tradition, like the youngest in the family, or like a lot of times for kids, were to be seen but not heard.
mhm.
So for me, that was where I became more observant of things and started to just get in tune with my like empathetic side of things and just feel on the insides because I couldn't really express them. So I had to find ways where I could just not internalize them in the way that it hurts me, but be able to internalize but process.
Mhm.
And the first really experience for me in terms of, you know, finding my passion in business is, so in Ghana, public education is not free, like a lot of, you know, African countries where public school education is not free. So if you can't afford it, then you're not going to school. That's plain and simple. So in the school that I was going to, they basically, I'm trying to kind of phrase it in a way that doesn't seem so terrible because it wasn't that bad, but if you don't pay your tuition, basically the entire class will hear about it. And
Are you
how
serious?
they did it, sorry?
I said, are you serious?
Yeah, yeah.
Mortified.
And oh, absolutely. And really how they would do it is that, you know, the bursar would walk, and this happens during, you know, class time, and they would go from class to class, and she would have a clipboard with names on it of students that hadn't paid for their tuition. And they would read out your name. When they did, you'd have to grab your backpack, grab your stuff, and then stand in front of the class as they were calling out all the other names.
Wow.
So it's, yeah. So
Right.
it was
Right, that
just,
your name was at the end of the alphabet, so you were up there.
yeah. So I'm there, they call my name, I grab my things, I'm standing up, and it's not like when they call you, you grab your things and you walk out, right? You grab your things and you wait for them to go through the list. So if you're the last one, at least you don't stay there too long.
Yeah.
But the thing is, once you grab your stuff and you're waiting and they're done with the list, they will then give a little speech of, oh, you know, these guys are going home because they haven't paid their tuition. So if you want to continue your education, you like, you know, that kind of speech. And for
Wow.
me, yeah, it was one of the most embarrassing moments of your life because you're looking at your peers and their perspective of you starts to change, right? Because now it's the idea of, oh, well, they haven't paid their fees, they can't afford it, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. And this happened multiple times. You'd go home, a lot of us kids will come back to school the next day, even though, you know, it hadn't been paid, we'll still come back anyway. And, you know, it happened a few times. But the crazy thing for me is I knew we were like a middle class family and we weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. My dad had a really good job. So
But
I
there
knew
were
they
seven of
could.
you, so getting 7 kids through school is not going to be inexpensive.
That's true. That is true. But I also knew, I was like, I'm pretty sure we can afford the tuition. Well, fast forward a couple of years now, I think maybe, well, all the way ahead, maybe like 3 or 4 years later, now 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking to my mom and I'm like, I was sharing all these like moments and embarrassing experiences that I went through in school. And I was like, you know, I never thought about how that impacted me now. But as I talk and share my story with more and more people, I realized then it's traumatic when you put a kid in front of the school like that and have that kind of conversation. And I learned that my dad was actually giving my mom money to pay for my tuition, but what she was actually doing was she was splitting it and helping to cover the tuition of my cousins and also other kids that didn't have. So, well, to me, I thought, oh, that's nice, but
But you shared that with us so we knew what was going on.
right. So I'm thinking, well, it's really generous and kind because she's like, well, your dad would always send more later, so I knew I could pay for yours later. But the other kids that didn't have anyone, I knew they needed it now. So I was using your money to pay for them. And I'm like, I don't get your logic, but I get your heart behind it.
Right.
And so for me, that was really one of those first moments where that embarrassing feeling, I was like, I never want a child my age, and I was probably, I would say 8 or 9 around that time, to experience something like that ever again. And I'm like, but how can I make that happen so that some kid doesn't feel what I felt, the shame, the embarrassment, just the, like, you're not worthy to be in this class with other people that, you know, had the money to go to school. So that was like my first moment where I was like, okay, I have to figure out a plan.
Well, and the thing that you mentioned is that if they don't have the money, they're not in school.
Right.
So they're already starting off way behind the curve.
Yeah.
They need that to go forward in life and go forward and also have, you know, the boost of confidence.
Exactly. And it's so true. And for me, you know, the really the second experience that really notched that passion again for me, where it's like this impact came from, was, it was more heartbreaking. The second one was also my mom and I was around the same age. We're in a taxi on our way heading home from the market. And my mom is like a bargainer. She wakes up super early. She's up by 4 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And she wakes up early and she tries to get to the market when all the produce and everything fresh is coming in. So that way she gets the freshest, she bargains you down until you probably like, all right, you could just take it for free.
She sounds like a really smart woman. I'm liking her.
Oh, she is incredibly like street smart. She is incredibly like there. And but yeah, so on our way home, we had stopped at a red light. And then this child, probably no older than maybe 7 or 8, walked up to the taxi begging for money. And like, to me, she was just so young, she seemed out of place. Because I'm like, I'm in here with my mom. Where's her mom? Where are her parents? She's, you know, here begging on the streets, a very busy street too. It's not, you know, anything where a child her age should be. And so my mom actually did ask her, was like, why are you here? What are you doing here? So she pointed across the street and we saw on the sidewalk, her mom was actually sitting there, but her mom was blind and she was cradling like a younger kid. So I think that was like her younger sibling.
That's heartbreaking.
Exactly. So it was up to her to find food and money for them because the mom was blind and there was a baby as well. So the mom was on the sidewalk and, you know, she was doing the begging and the panhandling. And the crazy thing too is, you know, in Ghana at the time, there was no soup kitchens, there was no food banks or something that could provide that support that, you know, if here you could go to a soup kitchen or you could go to
no money, no food, no meat.
Exactly. It's like nothing at all. And I was so heartbroken by just watching another kid, because I just couldn't comprehend going a day without eating. And, you know, I was eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacking in between as well. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But that experience deep down, I was like, this is so heartbreaking. This is so sad. This is so unfair. And then I remembered it. I'm like, okay, what can I do? I need to do something. So, I mean, we fast forward 2 years. I left Ghana and then moved to Zimbabwe to continue my education. And in Zimbabwe, one of our field trips was going to an orphanage on the outskirts of the city to volunteer. And this was probably my 8th grade or 9th grade class, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we were given the permission slips to get our parents to sign it. And in addition to the permission slips, they gave us this fundraising paper where they're like, hey, take this home for the weekend, see how much you can raise for the orphanage.
Uh-huh.
And I was excited because I'm like, oh my goodness.
You get to help them.
Exactly. So I got home, I went to work. It was Friday morning. They let us out early. I went to the office with my dad that afternoon. I was so determined. I'm like, I'm going to raise the most money. I'm going to make sure these kids have enough money to last them a lifetime. Because in my head, what I was going to raise was all the money they ever needed.
Oh, your heart was in the right place.
It really was. So I went to the office with my dad with my paper in hand, and every single person I saw, I petitioned them for money. It did not matter if they gave me $1 or 10. I took every single cent I could get from them. And I actually did end up raising the most money in my class.
Awesome.
And it was fantastic, but I think the joy really for me, the blessing really came in the faces that were like on the kids when we got to the orphanage and we brought them, the book supplies, the groceries, the toys.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the gratitude and the joy on their faces is like something that when I relive and think about now, it's like I can still feel my excitement and my joy because I'm like, I did something to put that smile on their face. I did something to make an impact, because like, have you ever,
even something as simple as, we went to the Dominican Republic. Something as simple as we leave our people who took care of our room, we leave them little toys for kids.
Yeah.
And they were like so thrilled. And just, and sometimes we went to a couple different places and there were kids and I just give them a toy.
Yeah.
Their faces just light up and you're like, this is like a little $2 to $3 toy, but for them,
exactly,
it's everything because they don't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes your heart burst.
Oh, absolutely. And, I always ask people like what, which I'm going to ask you too, like, have you ever felt like, when you look back on your life where it's like, life is not, it's not happening to you, but it's really happening for you. So your experiences and your story could help build others up. And, that's always in the mindset. So when I go through anything or go through any experience, I'm like, this is not happening to me. It's happening for me. So I can use that experience to help somebody else.
Yeah, and I'm an author. So a lot of parts of my life are within the books that I write. And they help people. My husband and I decided to publish the books. The first things we said was, we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it to get the messages out that are in the books. If the books help people, then we've done our goal. And that's same idea sort of translated differently.
Yeah, exactly. And really for me, those 3 moments in my life, like that embarrassment that I felt and that heartbreak, and watching other kids not have, what I had, because I didn't have much, but what I had was way more than, what they did. And then being able to then at such a young age, do something so like significant for me in that moment. I was like, if I can get so many more of these smiles or so many more of like this joy by just giving somebody a toy or, a piece of candy, how can I keep that feeling, and that joy alive? And, that's one of those things that led me into basically, this is my era. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? What are you doing with This Is My Era? Because I know you've translated those moments.
Yeah.
And you've actually taken those moments and you've created a business that does bring that same type of joy to people.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you share that with people?
Absolutely. Yes. So for me, for a very long time, being in business, like business was outside of my comfort zone. My background is in psychology.
Okay.
So I believed I was going to be, you know, a marriage and family therapist. That was the goal. That was really the sole focus. So I got my undergrad. I did psychology. I got my master's in psychology. I did the internship in the treatment facility. I went through all of that process because I was like, I'm going to be a therapist. I'm going to be a counselor and all of these things.
And life had a different idea.
Yeah, yep. And then, but along the way, as I'm going through and doing these group therapy sessions with people and sitting there and I'm realizing, okay, I'm making some kind of impact, but I'm still being taken back to all these moments in my life. And I'm like, how can I translate like psychology with the education of these kids? Like how I couldn't bring myself to figure it out. And I was like, all right, I need a plan. I need to go outside of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going back to school and I got an MBA in marketing. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, if I can understand a little bit about business, maybe I can build something that, you know, can combine whatever it is that I find and then use that to help supplement this impact that I still want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I did. Got my MBA. And then in 2017, so throughout going to college, getting my MBA, I was always obviously setting goals. I'm like, all right, what am I going to achieve? Once I hit this goal, what's next? What's next? What's
Mm-hmm.
next? And after a while, I was like, I need a process or I need something that's going to help me keep track of all these goals and ambitions and everything that I was like so driven to do. But in 2017, after being so frustrated with like finding a planner or something on the market, I was like, all right, I'm going to create my own planner so I can track my own goals and I can figure myself out. And so I really took that leap of faith, went outside my comfort zone, never started a business in my life, never created a product in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just so driven because I knew I had seen other people do it where they had a business and then they got the money and then they used the money to help others. I was like, oh, I can do that. So, so I basically used that. And then I was like, well, I need a planner, but if I build this business, how can I use that to help people?
Mm-hmm.
So that is exactly what we did. So when we launched the 90-day planner, which is one of our main products right now, you know, we're now helping people set goals and take action steps to, you know, live the life they've always envisioned. But the most important thing is that through our buy one, give one model,
Mm-hmm.
for every planner that is sold, we then provide school supplies to enhance the education experience for a child.
I love that.
And yeah, and so far we've sold over tens of thousands of planners globally, which is what excites me because I was able to not only just do it and sell it things locally. I discovered Amazon everything, and so I listed it on Amazon US, I listed it on Amazon UK, I listed on Amazon Australia, and we have people using our planners in all these different continents, and we still get to, you know, impact and provide these school supplies for these kids in Africa. And I think one of the other things too is I always talk about, while we do help and provide scholarships and education supplies in Africa, we also were looking in our backyard. And one of the places I'm also very passionate in anything with education, I love, because I feel like education is the one thing, your thing that cannot be taken away from you, right? Because when you teach somebody how to do something, they can use that then to help better their lives.
I mean, you can tell somebody that if you actually teach them how to do it, they can figure out their own way to do it and they can go forward and they can teach somebody else to do it too.
Exactly. And that's what we were going for is, you know, if we're able to give these students these supplies while they're in school, we can then enhance also their education experience. And one thing that I'm super proud of about what we do is we try to identify the students that are, you know, quote unquote forgotten, because there's so many other organizations out there that are helping other schools. So we try to go into the rural areas, the outskirts where, you know, resources are not necessarily reaching. We've been getting, you know, applications because people get nominated, schools nominate themselves to get all these supplies. And we get pictures back, and there's certain pictures where we've seen kids are having school outside under a tree and they're writing in the sand. And I'm like, how are you going to remember? How is that going to be crystallized in your brain when the wind blows and it rains? Everything you've learned that day is gone.
Yeah.
Basically. So that was like
you tend to only retain in your brain about 10% of what you're taught.
Exactly, right? And then
it's already washed away. You don't even have a book to reference.
Nothing. So for us to be able to provide these like school supplies for them, notebooks, pens, pencils, erasers, all of these things that they need to be able to then enhance their education experience was really one of the, fun and exciting things that gets me out of bed. When I wake up in the morning, it's not really, how many planners am I going to sell? It's like, how many lives can I transform today? Mm-hmm. And I just happen to do it through, selling 90-day planners. I happen to also do it through selling online courses, and, it's all of these. But for me, it's that passion to give back. Because when things get hard, when, sales are not coming in or anything, I'm always reminded of the impact. And I'm like, all right, what can I do to change my attitude about feeling so sad that things are not going my way? And then that, really brings and ties things in.
I love it. Love it. For people who want to know more about the 90-day planners and more about #ThisIsMyEra, how do they find you online?
Yes, so they can go on our website. It is www.thisismyera.com, and it's THISISMYERA.com.
Love it. Thank you. We have just a few minutes, like 3 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. One more thing I would love to add, and my husband loves to, he says it best, and I just love it. He says that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, every time I hear it, I'm like, whoa, right? So I always want to encourage people. I always want to, inspire people, like, hey, go for your dreams, dream big, push hard, get what you've always desired. But once you get there, make sure you're fulfilled, right? You don't want to end up being that millionaire, billionaire that's miserable, mm-hmm. right? And you're just sitting there all day without that fulfillment or that drive. So if you're chasing that success, it's great, but success, make sure there's fulfillment attached to it.
Yeah, and the question is, what is your definition of success? I know when I first started with writing the books and stuff, again, our initial goal was not to make money. Our initial goal is to make sure that the messages within the pages of the books get out and touch the hearts that they need to touch. Yeah. Yours is to make sure that children don't face a lot of what you saw growing up and experienced growing up. Yeah. And make sure that they are set up for success in their life instead of trying to fight and claw their way from the get-go.
Exactly. And success, like you said, it's different for everyone, right? Because your definition for it is different. Mine is different. So it's really find that definition that you attribute to success. Because once you get there, then you've made it. Because then you can be able to measure it. Because once you're able to do that, you've made it.
And the best way to be blessed is to be a blessing to somebody else.
Yes, I love that. That is so true. And there's so much in giving than in receiving.
Yeah, when you actually can help somebody, it's not to pat yourself in the back, it's to see the joy on their face.
Yes, that's it.
Or exactly to get the hug, or to get the excited squeal, with the hug that, you've helped them achieve or get something that they couldn't get themselves. But what you're doing is you're teaching them not only that, but you're teaching them to help others by helping them.
Yeah.
And the more we teach that to our children and to the next generation, the better off the generations following will be.
Exactly, which is what I learned from watching my mom, and taking people in and providing them, this hospitality without expecting anything in return. And I internalized that. And now in things I do, I'm always looking for ways where I can impact somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a millionaire to help somebody. You can make sure there's extra food on the table. Mm-hmm. And absolutely. Like I said, I love that. I love your story. I love everything about it. Again, for those who are interested in finding Ruth stuff, it is www.thisismyera.com. That's www.thisismyera.com. Thank you for coming on today, Ruth, and for sharing your heart. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of cjpetersonwrites.com. Until next time.